Alright, what is up, you beautiful people, and welcome back to another Direct Strike Weekly Brawl tier list. We're playing some Abathur today. Let's check it out. Looks like we have some hybrid here. Let's see, I'm just gonna put down these roaches here. And we got a hybrid rift here. Nice, that's one of the Brawl modifiers. Oh, we also have Stronghold, and what's the last one? Accord. No, they remove middle income? I hate it when they remove middle income. It just becomes like so slow. But I guess we'll have to work with that. Looks like there's an enemy Kerrigan because only Kerrigan spawns creep under her structures automatically, so I'm assuming that's what's up. I should probably get the Hydriotic Vial. So against as Abathur, I'm probably just gonna buy a bunch of Swarm Hosts. So yeah, I'm probably, I don't know, do I want to get Ravagers? Kinda just want to get a bunch of Swarm Hosts. So I think that's what's gonna happen here. Yeah, there's a Kerrigan. No surprise here. Oh, I pinged Wild Roach. There we go. There we go. Get that Kerrigan out here. Let's see. Let's get our own creep going. I don't actually know what my teammates are playing as right now. I'm gonna we'll put it over here. We have a Stetman. We have a Manx. Okay, nice. Well, Manx is gonna buy some tanks, hopefully. So this one looks like we can just do like a death push, but I guess like, so normally with hybrid, like you can just like cheese out a win with Karax by like spamming a bunch of hybrid when your beam is up. I usually like to do it at 8 minutes. Just gives you enough time to charge up enough hybrid and stuff. And then you win. But with the Stronghold, that should probably like put a clamp on that. But you'll probably expect Terran heroes / commanders to be very good this week. You also probably want to auto gas. So I'm going to do just that. The reason being, Stronghold just makes it so that your tanks are just so much better. Is that an Aegis Guard? That has to be an Aegis Guard. Yeah, there's no way he's that thick. Is this what I'm up against? Oh, jeez, I'm up against that. Okay.
What's up?
Well, there's that. But yeah, Shock Divisions are definitely going to be top tier this week. I think Nova's going to be top tier. Nova and Alarak. Although I think maybe Nova will be better because her tanks have much more range. We'll have to have a look at that. And then like anyone else who like has like enough stuff to tank against a tank should also do pretty nicely. So currently I only have my 3 roaches. I'm gonna put down my Swarm Hosts here. I'm gonna have to micro them so that they just like spam on the base. But I think that's what we're gonna have to do here. I'm gonna have to temp out some hybrid for some money. Just because leveling up the hybrid power cells is quite a lot. Stetman here, I think, is a bit disadvantaged because Banelings will crash into buildings as well, which just isn't as great. I'm gonna zoom in here. Man, looking at the Direct Strike 2, I mean Direct Strike, not Direct Strike 2. Can you imagine Direct Strike 2? But yeah, looking at the Direct Strike interface looks kind of weird because I've been playing so much They Are Billions this week. I'm actually kind of hyped. It's a pretty fun game. Although I don't know how I'd make a video for it. Probably end up being like Frostpunk. In the sense that like there'll be like pretty long sessions because like each round of They Are Billions is like a long time. So yeah, but yeah, I don't know, it's pretty fun. I've only gotten like halfway through the campaign and I'm only playing on like normal difficulty, I guess. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep my Swarm Hosts here, make it so they don't unburrow. I'll need more Swarm Hosts probably need some Ravagers. Enemy has no vision on my host, so that's great. My host can start stacking. Hopefully, unless the Aegis Guard starts attacking them. There's a Baneling here. But yeah, this week's gonna be a long week in terms of games. Also because of Accord, there's no middle income, so it's like, it's actually, I think it's better in the sense that like, just as you get pushed in on one side doesn't mean it's game over. That's the good thing about not having Accord. But the bad thing is it slows down a game a little bit, and so like, you know, you can go pretty greedy this week and not get punished for it, I would say. Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I spawn these Swarm Hosts here, and I think Swarm Hosts might be able to contest tanks. They might be able to.
What's the plan?
Although tanks like this might be a little hard to contest. We'll have to see here. Let's see. Get the Swarm Hosts over here. Make sure these guys don't unburrow. There we go. Just keep them here. I'm gonna need more Swarm Hosts than what I have, though. I'll probably also need more stuff at the front. I don't know. Enemy Abathur is just going for like Roach Queen. Although I think Guardians might be pretty strong too. Guardians, well, we'll have to see. I'm just gonna spam a bunch of Swarm Hosts here just because that'll help hold the line. Kerrigan's Ultralisk are gonna start being problematic though, so we'll see. And my Swarm Hosts don't spawn at an advanced rate either, so there is also that. We got some hybrid coming out here from our allies, but I'm not gonna be summoning any hybrid for a good bit. Let's send those out there manually, I guess. Okay, we have some Mutalisks. We got some pressurized glands. I guess enemy Abathur's gonna go try and go air. Although I think a few Devours should shut that down pretty nicely. Let's see. I'm gonna let my Swarm Host move up, I think, because we have a Shock Division to protect him. Like, I think the tanks with the Swarm Host is an ideal composition. It's an ideal composition. Let's see. I'm gonna get some extra damage on my Locust. I'm gonna make sure this one gets biomass, the one on the side. There we go. And also, I need to make an announcement because like my like 100 subscriber stream specials. I don't know if I'll be able to do the next one this week because we popped off. We're like almost at 1.7K. So huge thanks. Love you guys lots. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue the sub stream, the live stream specials to celebrate every 100 subs. Let's see. I think we stopped at 1.3K last time, right? So like we stopped 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, soon TM. So that'll be like probably a few months, like a month's worth of live streams on the weekends. That'll be fine. I like that. But I think this weekend I'm just gonna take it off here because I have been super busy. And I'm just gonna catch a break this weekend. So next weekend, maybe I'll just do like stream back to back next weekend. I'll see how things shape up. Yeah, maybe next weekend I can do like 2 live stream specials back to back. I don't know. Maybe I'll try that out. But yeah, let's see. Are these guys spawning swarms? Okay, there we go. Where are my Swarm Hosts? I'm gonna make sure I think they're good sieged up here. The Swarm Host constantly, like, the value generation here is pretty good.
What's up?
It's the one time where Swarm Host spam is, like, not too bad. The other time is when they have reduced cooldown reduction. But yeah, so live stream special, I think we'll have a break for this week, and then we'll kick back into high gear next week. Just because I need to have, like, a little bit of an R&R on the weekend, I think. Because my weekends are so busy, and so are my weekdays. So I'm just busy all the time. There we go. Let's see. There we go. We got our Swarm Host line here. Uh-oh. There we go. Get that Swarm Host line. So these guys are advancing, but I don't need all of them to advance. We got some enemy Manx siege tanks here. Our Stepman doing the stack breaking is going to be pretty good. Let's see. Maybe I should move these guys up a bit. But I don't know. Oh, yeah, actually, I should move it up a bit. Stepman's units are just crushing it. So there we go. Our Swarm Host spam. Enemy Abathur has not spammed Swarm Host, so you can see the difference here in having them versus not. Although, I guess the Swarms are kind of weak to hybrid, but so is Abathur's front line. Weak to siege tanks, so yeah. We're just going to slowly but steadily overrun. So you're definitely not trying to rush people down this week. I think Raynor with tanks would be pretty good this week, because Raynor can just buy pure tanks, because they're so cheap, and then you just toss in a Hyperion at some point. You know, and they have fast siege, so it's like strength in numbers. Although I think Swan will also be pretty good too, because the laser beam just adds to like his whole kit of like the Stronghold and everything. Stargate getting blown to shreds here. Apparently the Terran team is Imba because the Terran units get repaired, the mechs get repaired. Oh my god, Kerrigan needs to build Ultralisk. She's got nothing but Hydralisk, and they are not looking good into those Stepman Banelings. They're just getting incinerated. Okay, we got a giant hybrid come out here. Hybrid Behemoth. It's not going to stand much of a chance, I'll be honest. Mostly because there's so many Locusts. There's so many Locusts. It's like, yeah, the Locusts are, they get countered-ish. Okay, so I think once I have 2 sort of layers of Swarm Hosts, I'm going to switch over to, like, Ravagers. We need to get some more DPS up in this. My wave is mostly here for like absorbing damage right now. That's pretty much it. You know, nothing bad about absorbing damage. Let's see. Some more of these. And then yeah, once I fill this up, I'm gonna get some Ravagers over here in the center and just have like a pretty strong center. Okay, so the Ultralists are coming in. The Ultralists are gonna start countering my Swarmhost pretty hard though. We got the cannon. Although the Banelings are just still gonna crush them because there's only like a handful of them. Okay, but the Ultras are gonna start coming in, so I think maybe I'll call it enough for now. I'll buy a single Ravager, and then I'm gonna start teching up to tier 2. I mean tier 3. I'm gonna need that tier 3 because I'm gonna need some Brutalists at the front. Bunch of Guardians, but Guardians are terrible into the Swarmhost. Mostly because the Guardians are single target units, and Swarmhosts, well, have lots of single targets for you to hit. There we go. We got a Flying Tank, boys. Flying Tanks are actually insanely potent. Because air units like the Clump. I learned that the hard way, I think, in one of the matchups. I always thought Flying Tanks were the memes, so I never really used them, and I realized they're actually great air AoE for Manx. Like, Manx does not have air AoE, and, like, that is his solution. Flying Tank. Or should I say Flying Jank? Because it's pretty jank, but it works, you know? Let's see. Yup. There's just too many Swarmhosts. Too many Locusts. Enemy Abathur's also not going Swarmhosts. So I guess that's their loss, I guess. This week, if you have Swarmhosts, make use of them. I think Dahaka can do pretty well here too. And then also Dahaka can supply his Swarmhost with Ultralisk as well. Creepers, oh, there's an August Grad. Okay. Well, you can Yamato me, but I got so many Swarmhosts. Yamatoing the Locust would never work out. You never want to do it. It feels so bad. Okay, so let's just Biomass here. I'll think about buying a Brutalist, but right now I think we gotta get some Ravagers on the field. I don't quite see my Ravagers in action. Oh no, I see it's right there. But yeah. Okay, so he's out of Yamatos. He's used both of them. Alright, cool. He's out of Yamatos. I really don't think the August Grad can salvage the situation here. Okay, he's got a Leviathan, okay. Enemy Abathur's just like, I'm gonna beat this with anything besides Swarmhost. We can do this, right? We got this, right? Okay. I'm gonna keep you all burrowed in here real nice. I just think keeping them burrowed here is just a great idea. Oh, my wave already spawned. Okay, so I'll just level up my weapon upgrades. Oh yeah, we still have Hybrid. I forgot about that. Imagine having to use Hybrid in your Hybrid Brawl. A lot of times I just don't even use my Hybrid because I'm just like, I don't need to. But I think I'm going to go for it now. We're gonna put down 4 big boys. 4 big boys. I'm going to put down some Ravagers to back them up here. I'm going to ping to my team to let them know I'm unleashing the Hybrid. 4 Hybrid Behemoths, boys. The one thing is though, sometimes it's like, I never end up making use of my Hybrid because it's like I don't even need to. You know, like, sometimes it's just a situation like that. I don't need to use my Hybrid. You know? It's a luxury to me. Like enemy Abathur's wave just getting torn to shreds. Just slowly getting ground to pieces by the endless amount of cockroaches. It's like living in an NYC apartment. And your neighbor has a cockroach infestation and you're just struggling. You're doing your darndest and nothing's working. Oh man. The cockroach. Look at that. Big Hybrid, get out of there. Siege tanks? Not a chance. Although actually they might be able to smash through this stuff here. I'm gonna level up my armor here. And I'm gonna mend my way through their front line, okay? Let's do it. It's mending time. It's mending time, baby. It's mending time, baby. It's mending time, baby. It's mending time, baby. Okay, I gotta stop now. I've used like 4 mends. But yeah, that looks like it's gonna cut it. The mend just doesn't look like it has an effect on the Hybrid because they have so much health. So yeah, there's that. Ravagers are over here. He's got a Brutalisk. You really gotta back up your Brutalisk with some real DPS though. So the Ravagers are the real DPS, you know? They're the real heroes. There we go. There we go. That's how it's done, boys. Yeah, so this week I think it's like if you got tanks, if you got swarms, you use them. I think if you're Stepman, what he did here was a pretty good idea. The only thing is you really need your team to back you up with the value generation. So if your team isn't generating value, then you have to. Otherwise, you are gonna fall behind. Like Stepman could do this because I was generating like lots of bodies. Manx had like the tanks in the back for DPS, like consistent DPS. And then so Stepman could just slam into whatever wave he was up against, and that was great. That was that. I think that like if you're playing like Kerrigan, I think you just want to have like Ultraless Lurker, just lots and lots of that. Maybe Broodlords, although I'm not a fan of them because like they don't protect themselves. Like they just get shot to pieces by enemy air. But like, you know, it's still better than nothing. Abathur, please make use of your infinite generation. And then I think Manx would be better just to like have tanks up. I don't know. I don't think the August Grad's worth it, especially because he didn't have it at max rank. I thought he had it at max rank. He just got a little desperate there. Yeah, so I just took like a buttload of damage, 99k. Dealt a respectable amount, but Manx here doing a lot. You know, no surprise there with his tanks constantly being backed up by Swarm Hosts. So the difference is massive. You definitely want to back up your units with Swarm Hosts. So yeah, let's go on to the tier list. All right, and we are back. Let's get right to it. So as per usual, the game plan, we're going to talk about the ores, we talk about the overall strategy, and we're going to get into the commander rankings. Well, let's get right to it. And by the way, if you guys are not yet sub, be sure to drop a sub so we can pile up some more scheduled live stream specials. We'll probably have 1.7k ready for next week. But yeah, let's get right into it. So ores, we have Accord, middle income is gone. Stronghold, bases build up as you push forward, as you, well, witnessed there in that game. And we have Mercs, you summon a powerful one-time use hybrid. So here's what I think is probably like the best generic game plan tips for this week. You want to build a lot of siege units if your commander has them. Either siege units that generate value, so like Swarm Hosts or Broodlords, although Broodlords not as great, or even Assault Galleons. Or you can have siege units that do a lot of DPS from afar, so preferably tanks. I think with air units like Tempest and carriers, Lamau, Tempest and carriers, they might be able to do okay, but it's like you have to build more things to protect them. Versus grounded siege units, they are protected by virtue of being on the ground and surrounded by buildings. Yes, your opponent can build like an air to ground unit, like a guardian or something that like attacks them. But the thing is like, then they have to build another unit to protect it. I don't know. You have to commit a lot harder to make the air siege work this week compared to just going pure ground and siege. Because on the ground, you can just like build your tanks. If you really need to protect your siege units, then you can respond in kind, right? But it still doesn't take away from the fact that your siege units are laser focused on destroying enemy ground units and the like, versus enemy siege units are only able to target, I guess, your siege units and not the enemy air. Because most air siege units don't shoot air. Well, not most. Some of them do. But they don't perform as well. And so, like, if you can't do any of those things, you can try and break your enemy siege stacks by just sort of throwing in lots of units into the mix, or like lots of like very powerful disruptive units like Ultralisk, or even like reviving zealots. So that could be very powerful, and you should always save your hybrid. Your hybrid is sort of like rather than a panic, it could be used as a panic button. You're about to lose, you got to use it. Or it's like, you know, your opponents use their hybrid, you like completely crushed it, and now they have no hybrid to respond to you, so you can just like use your hybrid. So it's sort of like a who's gonna shoot first, because I think if your opponent shoots first, they don't win the game outright, then you can easily shoot second and then win on them and beat them. That is provided your opponents don't have like, I don't know, literally a wall of tanks, because then you're just kind of boned. So here's the rankings for this week. I think the commanders in the S tiers are basically like just super good this week because of what they can offer. So Abathur is S because, well, you can offer your endless units from Stormhost generation, and then you can also transition into like a high damage anti-siege build with like, I don't know, Roach Brutalisk, with some queens and ravagers. You could go for like a build like that. I think that build might be better, and to toss in a few vipers. I don't think going pure guardians this week, at least against like swarm hosts, is a good idea. If you end up against a bunch of tanks, probably a bunch of guardians might be pretty good. Although guardians, like, I don't know, I don't quite like their DPS on buildings. Like, they're single target. They're like worse tempests. They attack faster. They do less damage. And they don't protect themselves. So you have to make an investment to protect them, like build devours and other things, right? So it's like, it's gonna be pretty expensive to do Abathur Air. I think for this week you want to keep it on the ground, but you know, add in a few vipers here and there to disrupt the tanks if you really need to. Do the breaker build. I did the less interesting one, which is turn off your brain and build a bunch of swarm hosts. You can always do that. And yeah, Nova, I think, is definitely going to be your S tier to beat, like the Terran commander to beat, thanks to her tier 3 tanks getting 18 range. And her tanks also have 400 health. So they also do 100 damage per shot on armored targets, and like I think like an 80 something or 90 damage to unarmored targets. So yeah, Nova's tanks are the tanks to beat because they're super tanky, do lots of damage, have lots of range, just all around the perfect thing you want to have on your team this week. And Dahaka, I think, is also S because Dahaka, well, he brings himself. He also brings his swarm host. Don't go Impalers this week. I don't think that's worth it. They're like worse siege tanks, basically. But your swarm host will be able to just really crush it, nail it down here. And if you really need to, you can also build in your Ultralisk as well to like really like give your swarm host some breathing space and like push in, or also just like push it onto the enemy swarm host line. Alarak here, I think, is also S because Alarak's Wrathwalkers are very good against buildings. They do like almost like 200 damage. I think they do 200 damage against buildings. So yeah, they'll chew through buildings really quickly, and there's lots of buildings to chew through this week. And arguably, they can probably stand up to tanks, although I don't think they can stand up to Nova's tanks because Nova's tanks just have so much range on them. And even they have even more health on them, although the Wrathwalkers shoot faster and do more damage. So, you know, it's a pretty tight toss-up. And although Alarak sort of suffers from not being able to do the AoE, though Vanguards can usually solve most of that problem. And then next in the A tier, I think Beast Commanders are also still very good. Stukov with his volatile throwing tanks, so it's a double purpose. You know, you have your tank siege and value generation at the same time. Although Stukov's tanks are super expensive, so he's just not going to be able to have as many of them out on the field at the same time, which is going to suck. They're also pretty fragile, so he still kind of has to protect them. But you can always protect them with bunkers. You can always start bunkers and then move into tanks. Nothing wrong with that. And then with Raynor, I think you just be a madman and buy nothing but tanks from like this, from literally the second minute that you have like tanks available. Like the first minute you have tanks available, basically. Because your tanks are cheap. They're like $220 a piece, 220 minerals a piece. They have fast siege. You can just have like a whole field of tanks. And if that doesn't work out, you can always build a Hyperion. So that's the Raynor gameplay. Throw money at the problem. And then with Mercs, I think Mercs is A as well with his shock divisions. The only thing that I think holds him back from being anything higher is the fact that he can't buy as many tanks. So he'll get outnumbered by Nova tanks. And Nova's tanks will literally beat up your shock divisions. Even though your shock divisions are much stronger individually, you just can't have as many of them at tier 3. Also because there's no middle income, so your EXP gain is also like just completely botched. You can, however, micro Earth Splitter cannons to destroy enemy swarm hosts, so Manx can definitely have that. I don't build Earth Splitter enough. I should. But yeah, you can definitely do that as well. And also Swan, I think, is definitely going to be A-tiered this week because his slow sieging tanks now aren't as vulnerable because they're protected by buildings. And, well, they have a lot of things to shoot at, so they won't unsiege and siege a bunch of times. So that'll make Swan a lot better for this week. In the B tier, we have, I think, 3 top contenders for breaking the stack, although that's pretty much all they can do, I think. And that is Zagara, unsurprisingly. I think, so usually I rate Zagara as like a little weaker, because there's all these buildings and stuff absorbing her AoE, but because I think games will go longer this week, it's totally possible for Zagara to reach that point in the game where she just has so many explosives that it doesn't matter how much like you have stacked up. She's just going to cut right through it. So I think Zagara is someone to look out for this week. Kerrigan is kind of like Zagara in that sense, except instead of explosives, you build lots of Ultralisk, and they just barrel down your opponent's wave. I don't think Kerrigan Broodlords is worth it. Like, I don't know, the Broodlings are like worse. They're like worse Swarm Host Locusts. Like, they're melee, they do like less damage, easily countered by armored. I don't know, like, I mean, you can get more of them, but also Broodlords cost more and they're super vulnerable to any form of anti-air simply because they don't shoot back. And then next we have Vorazun. I think if you use like Invisible Void Rays and a handful of Corsairs, you can have quite a lot of fun. Also, because you're going Void Rays, your opponent's probably going tanks. Your Void Rays are just going to have fun like ripping through all those tanks. And Void Rays also can protect themselves in the air, and it'll frustrate your opponent because now your opponent has to build some sort of anti-air, which usually doesn't stack as nicely. Although if you're Rainer, it doesn't matter because then you can just build Vikings. So yeah. And then in the C tier, I think we have some commanders who are kind of like, I don't know, like they either do the stack breaking pretty nicely, like not as nicely as I think we have in B, or they're kind of oddball-ish. So what I mean by that is, so Phoenix, I think if you go Praetor Phoenix in like his Praetor suit, you can easily dive tank backlines, although as the game progresses, your Phoenix will die faster and faster. In terms of building your own backline as Phoenix, I think you might have to just go like Warbringer and a ton of Colossus. That might net you some results. Or you can go like Legionary spam and just run over your opponent's tanks. I don't know how long that's going to last though, because some flamethrowers will definitely put a stop to that. But I think Phoenix can do either of those two things, but you have to hard commit on one of them. Like, choose one and go for it. Or even Carriers, because Kalarian like does a lot of bonus damage to ground units, although you're building Carriers. So, I don't know. And it might not be as bad as it looks. Same thing with Carax. Carax's game plan is kind of like Phoenix as well. You can go like, I think Crusher Ground Carax this week is probably what you want. Your composition where it's like you have like the attacking V with lots of Sentinels, some Annihilators, and a few Colossus. Although you might be able to step up your number of Colossus this week, thanks to the large number of buildings. Or you can just hard commit and go Carriers from the first minute. I think Carriers is like something you have to hard commit to, because the more of them you have, the better it is. The less of them you have, the worse it is. Like, one Carrier is actually laughable, but if you have like 8 of them, that's not laughable anymore. Well, you'll be laughing. Your opponents won't be. And then next in the C tier, we have Hanhorner. So Hanhorner is a bit of an oddball Terran commander in the sense that they don't really have like a siege unit. Like, yes, Assault Galleons are siege, but they're also like single target. They spawn units, so they kind of generate value, but super slowly. I don't know, like, if you're playing Hanhorner this week, I think it's just, you might just be super ballsy and go Assault Galleons, like, from the first minute. If you have to build air units, maybe, like, build some grounded Deimos Vikings. All the grenade cars are pretty good at, like, ripping through buildings, so maybe don't sleep on them either. But yeah, like, it's gonna be kind of strange. You'll probably have to take to the skies with your siege, and that'll net you some pretty interesting results, I would think. And then in the last position in C tier, we have Tychus. He hasn't been down here for a long time, but I think Tychus is in the C tier this week because if you're new to Tychus, you're probably gonna be like, okay, so there's a lot of buildings and there's a lot of armored units, so I'm gonna build Kev, right? Right, but then the thing is, like, Tychus's units get distracted by the buildings, so they'll start attacking them. I think Tychus's probably best game plan this week is like a very micro-intensive Boswell gameplay where you just buy a bunch of Boswells, throw them into the tank line. I don't know, and then maybe have like a Kev or two to like supplement. Although I don't know if Kev is gonna get distracted in the buildings. He might, so that's also a danger. But Boswell definitely can like really mess up tanks. I think you might just have to be like super thick Tychus this week, and then also you have to add your Tychus, right? But yeah, I don't know. I think your utility units, you might be able to use them. I don't know. Vega, probably good against Manx, but not everyone else. But yeah. And finally in the D tier, I think we have our commanders who are kind of, I don't know, in a bit of a pickle. I think Stetman more so than Artanis. Because Stetman, I think you can break stacks very well with Stetman, but it's like, you can't really like end the game on that. Like, your stack breaking capacity doesn't win you the game. Like, it'll, like, what I mean by that is, like, your two teammates could literally be like, I don't know, doing something stupid as well. And then so your wave goes in, pushes like, you know, halfway to the enemy side, and then your teammates' waves, like, they just get evaporated by your opponent stacking up siege. Your wave comes in, erases that, so you're just at a standstill until your opponent's siege wave gets so big that, like, your stack breaking just doesn't do anything. Because it's like, I don't know, like, your Ultras are really good, your Lings are really good, your Banes are really good, but it's like none of them generate permanent value. They're also really expensive. Although I could be totally wrong with this assessment, right? I don't know, he might be the best stack breaker up there. Might be, right? But it's all like based on how you play it. I think you have to go stack breaker this week, especially because Battle Carrier Lords got nerfed again. I don't know why they're constantly getting nerfed. Like, they never seemed that strong to me in the first place. But maybe it's just like their amount of damage output potential. I don't know. But yeah. And then in the other D tier we have Artanis. So I think Artanis might be sleeper OP this week if you buy a bunch of Tempest. He might actually be like right up there next with Alarak. He might actually be up there. But if you do any other strategy besides Tempest, I think you might have a hard time. Yes, your Immortals are great, but and so are your Archons, but they have short range. Yeah, so I think the secret this week with Artanis is you don't want to go ground, because if you go ground, you might be D tier. Although you might have to go ground because of certain situations. So we'll see. Maybe I'll experiment with Artanis and Stedman this week as well. So yeah, be on the lookout for those videos. Alright, so if you guys enjoy this tier list, be sure to leave a like. Let me know what you think. I mean, you know, I don't know. These are just my assessments, so maybe like you could offer some reassessments. Maybe there's some things I totally overlooked, because that's also possible. So be sure to let me know about those things in the comment section down below. But until that, I will see you guys in the next video. Later!
The tires! Let's light some fires!
Need a light. They picked the wrong fight.